Some men are destined to be heroes. Others are destined to be warnings. Today, we document 6 firefighters who became a fatal lesson for us all. When the clock hits 0, no amount of training can save you. This is a noir look at the end of the line. We are analyzing the moments where luck vanished and the dark took over. This is for educational use only. See how fast a life disappears. Philadelphia, February 16, 1996. The city is locked in the grip of a brutal winter, the kind of freezing cold that makes metal brittle and turns the streets into gray canyons of ice and salt. On the 5400 block of North 5th Street, a fire breaks out at a Payless shoe source, a routine commercial alarm that draws the engines of the Philadelphia Fire Department into the biting wind. Among the responders is John Gracie, a 38-year-old veteran of Ladder 4, a man who knows the rhythm of the city better than he knows his own heartbeat. To a firefighter, the environment is a map of potential threats, but some things are assumed to be safe. The ground you stand on, the air you breathe before the mask goes on, and the equipment you use to save lives. Gracie's task is fundamental: establish a water supply. He approaches a fire hydrant on the corner, a cast iron sentry that has stood there for decades. To the average person walking by, a fire hydrant is just a passive object, a lump of metal painted yellow or red that blends into the urban background. But physically, a charged hydrant is a source of immense stored pressure. Inside that iron skin, the city's water system is pushing with a relentless, silent pressure of nearly 80 pounds per square inch. That might not sound like a lot compared to a bomb, but water is heavy and water is incompressible. It does not squeeze, it pushes. Against the surface area of a 4-inch metal cap, that pressure translates into hundreds of pounds of potential energy, waiting for the slightest weakness to release it. This specific hydrant, however, is hiding a fatal secret. Beneath the layers of heavy paint, the iron threads that hold the heavy cap in place have been eaten away by a slow, invisible cancer: rust. Years of road salt, winter moisture, and neglect have turned the interlocking ridges of steel into a crumbling powder. The cap isn't held by solid metal anymore. It is held by friction and luck. John Gracie doesn't know this. He sees a standard hydrant. He steps directly into the path of the outlet, a position that a physicist would call the kill zone, a position that is technically dangerous but often necessary in the rush of an emergency. He takes his heavy steel wrench and fits it over the nut of the cap. He applies torque. In a healthy hydrant, the cap would turn and open. In this hydrant, the torque is the trigger. The corroded threads finally give up the ghost. There is no warning. There is no slow leak. There is only a catastrophic mechanical failure. In a fraction of a second, the static pressure of the water converts instantly into kinetic energy. The heavy iron cap, weighing as much as a bowling ball, is no longer a plug. It is a heavy iron projectile launched at point-blank range. The physics here are simple and terrifying. The water pushes the cap out with such violence that it accelerates faster than the human eye can track. John Gracie is standing less than 3 feet away. He has zero time to react. His brain cannot even process the visual signal before the event is over. The metal projectile slams into his chest with the force of a sledgehammer swung by a giant. This is not a bump or a bruise. The impact delivers a massive amount of blunt force trauma directly to the center of his torso, compressing his chest cavity in a millisecond. The force is so extreme that it stops his heart instantly. It is a blow comparable to being hit by a compact car moving at highway speeds, but concentrated into a circle of iron the size of a dinner plate. Gracie is thrown backward onto the freezing pavement, his life extinguished before his body even settles on the ground. Immediately, a geyser of water erupts from the open hydrant, shooting 30 feet into the gray winter sky. It creates a surreal, tragic fountain, hissing with the roar of unbridled pressure, washing over the fallen firefighter with freezing spray. The scene is chaotic, but the physics are done. The other firefighters rush to his aid, slipping on the ice, desperate to undo what has just happened. But the laws of mechanics offer no appeals. The object that caused the fatal injury to John Gracie wasn't a gun or a bomb. It was a simple rusted cap that couldn't hold back the weight of the water anymore. The wrench lies useless on the ground. The water continues to flow, indifferent to the tragedy, scrubbing the street clean. It serves as a brutal reminder of the energy hiding in plain sight. We build these systems to save us. We trust them implicitly. But every pressurized pipe in every city is just one rusted thread away from becoming an executioner. John Gracie didn't die because of a mistaken judgment. He died because the infrastructure of the world quietly failed right in front of him. St. Louis, Missouri, May 3, 2002. It is a Friday afternoon, and the sky over the city is a flat, industrial gray, hanging low over the brick facades of the Gravois Avenue commercial district. A fire has broken out in a single-story building, a routine bread-and-butter call for the St. Louis Fire Department, but the chemistry of a fire ground is never truly routine. Among the responding units is Squad 1, a heavy rescue company carrying Derek Martin, a 38-year-old veteran firefighter who has spent nearly half his life in the service. Martin is the kind of professional who knows his equipment better than he knows his own car, trusting the heavy machinery of the department to defy gravity and heat. The truck he rides is a specialized piece of aerial engineering known as a snorkel, an articulating boom that functions like a giant robotic arm, capable of lifting firefighters 85 feet into the air. To the average observer, this truck is an indestructible fortress of steel and hydraulics, a tool designed to conquer the elements. But to a physicist, an aerial platform is simply a massive cantilever system, a long lever arm held up by hydraulic pressure, fighting a constant war against the pull of the earth. On this day, the fire is aggressive, requiring a defensive attack from above. Derek Martin climbs into the bucket at the end of the boom. He is lifted 35 feet above the pavement, hovering over the smoke, positioning himself to direct a master stream, a high-volume torrent of water, onto the burning roof. As the hydraulics hiss and the heavy steel arm locks into place, Martin feels secure. He is standing on a platform of high-grade metal, supported by massive pistons. But metal has a memory. Every time this truck has been used in the past, every time it hit a pothole, every time the ladder swayed in the wind, the atomic structure of the steel absorbed the stress. This is the phenomenon of metal fatigue. It is an invisible, cumulative cancer that forms within the crystalline lattice of the material. Deep inside the knuckle, the critical joint connecting the boom sections, a microscopic crack has been growing for years. It is thinner than a human hair, undetectable to the naked eye during a standard walk-around inspection, but it is there, waiting for the perfect mathematical storm to widen it. That storm arrives the moment Derek Martin opens the nozzle. He unleashes a stream of water moving at over 1,000 gallons per minute. In the world of physics, water is heavy, 3 pounds per gallon, and moving it at high velocity creates a massive equal and opposite reaction. This is Newton's third law in its most violent form. The nozzle doesn't just spray water, it kicks back with hundreds of pounds of force. This nozzle reaction acts like a giant invisible hand punching the bucket backward. This sudden spike in torque travels down the steel arm, searching for the weakest link. In a pristine machine, the steel would flex and absorb the shock. But on Squad 1, the energy finds the hidden crack in the knuckle. The metal has reached its yield point, and it does not bend, it shatters. There is a sound that no firefighter ever wants to hear, a deafening, explosive crack of failing steel echoing off the brick walls. In a fraction of a second, the structural integrity of the boom vanishes. The hydraulic pistons are still pushing, but the steel connecting them has sheared completely. The laws of leverage, which moments ago were lifting Derek Martin up, now turn against him. The bucket, weighing thousands of pounds with the water and the man inside, instantly succumbs to gravity. It creates a sickening arc, a free fall from the height of a 3-story building. The time dilation for the men on the ground is horrific. They watch the massive white arm of the truck detach and plummet. But the physics of the fall happened too fast for a human voice to scream a warning. The bucket slams into the top of the burning building and then careens down to the concrete alleyway below. The impact is catastrophic. The kinetic energy of the falling steel is transferred instantly into the pavement and the human body inside the cage. This is a deceleration injury of the absolute highest order. The human frame is built to withstand running and jumping, not the G-force of a multi-ton structure hitting the earth at terminal velocity. Derek Martin suffers massive, non-survivable blunt force trauma the instant the bucket strikes the ground. The silence that follows the crash is heavier than the noise of the fire. The twisted metal of the boom lies in the alley, a broken spine of a mechanical beast that finally gave up. The water from the severed pipe continues to gush onto the wreckage, washing over a scene where a man was betrayed not by the fire, but by the very atoms of the tool he trusted to save him. The forensic investigation would later reveal the microscopic fatigue crack, a flaw that had been hiding in the dark for years, slowly widening until the mass of the load finally exceeded the strength of the material. Derek Martin's death serves as a chilling reminder that in the battle between human engineering and the laws of physics, physics always bats last. He didn't die because of a tactical error. He died because a piece of steel forgot how to be strong. Houston, Texas, May 31st, 2013. The Southwest Inn stands along the feeder road of the Southwest Freeway, a sprawling, nondescript complex of stucco and glass baking under the relentless Texas sun. It is a Friday morning, the kind that starts with a deceptive calm before the heat of the day truly sets in. At 12:09 p.m., a fire is reported at the hotel's restaurant, a localized blaze that seems on the surface to be a standard commercial job. The Houston Fire Department responds with the precision of a military unit. Among the first to arrive are Captain Matthew Renault, engineer-operator Robert Beebe, firefighter Robert Garner, and probationary firefighter Ann Sullivan. These are not amateurs. They are seasoned professionals who understand fire behavior, ventilation, and structural integrity. They enter the building through the front, moving into the restaurant area. Inside, the conditions appear manageable. There is smoke, yes, but it is banking down slowly, not the thick, turbulent black smoke that signals an imminent flashover. The heat at floor level is tolerable. To their trained eyes, this looks like a contents fire, burning furniture or kitchen equipment, something they can knock down with a standard attack line. But they are walking into a trap set by architecture itself. The building is not what it seems. It has been remodeled and expanded over decades, creating a labyrinth of void spaces and hidden compartments. Above the drop ceiling of the restaurant, the flimsy grid of tiles and lights that forms the visible roof from the inside, lies a massive open attic space. This is the cockloft, a common feature in commercial construction, but in this building, it is a deadly secret. The fire did not start in the kitchen. It has been burning unchecked in this hidden attic for unknown minutes, feeding on old wood and accumulated dust. The flames are raging directly above the firefighters' heads, separated only by a thin layer of plaster and acoustic tile. They cannot see it. They cannot feel the full intensity of it because heat rises and the drop ceiling is acting as a temporary insulator, masking the inferno above. But the real danger is not the fire. It is the structure holding the roof up. The roof of the Southwest Inn is supported by a lightweight truss system. In engineering terms, a truss is a web of triangles, geometrically strong but physically fragile when exposed to heat. These trusses are made of relatively thin steel and wood. Steel is a material with a fatal flaw in firefighting. At 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature easily reached in a standard structure fire, steel loses 50% of its load-bearing strength. It does not melt, it softens. It becomes like spaghetti. The heavy air conditioning units on the roof, weighing tons, are now sitting on a structure that is rapidly losing its ability to fight gravity. The firefighters are advancing, their thermal imaging cameras showing heat, but not the catastrophic failure happening in the steel web above them. They were fighting a ghost, a small fire they could see, unaware that the real war was already lost in the steel skeleton directly above their heads. At 12:22 p.m., just 13 minutes after the first alarm, the physics of the situation reach a critical tipping point. The steel trusses in the attic reach their failure temperature. They do not sag slowly, they snap. The connection points, the gusset plates, the welds, they all give way simultaneously. This is a global structural collapse. The entire roof assembly, tons of steel, wood, roofing tar, and massive hydrant units, detaches from the walls. Gravity takes over instantly. There is no creaking sound, no warning dust falling from the ceiling. 1 second, the crew is standing in a smoky room. The next, the sky falls on them. The collapse is violent and total. The massive weight of the roof slams down onto the firefighters with the force of a hydraulic press. This is not a survivable event for anyone directly in the drop zone. Captain Renault and firefighter Sullivan are killed instantly by blunt force trauma. The sheer mass of the debris caused instantaneous, fatal injuries before their nerves could even register pain. Engineer Beebe and firefighter Garner are trapped in the rubble, succumbing to traumatic asphyxiation, a clinical term for being crushed so tightly that the chest cannot expand to take a breath. The collapse creates a shockwave of air and dust that blows out the front windows, a visual testament to the violence of the event. Outside, the Rapid Intervention Teams, RIT, watch in horror as the building they were just supporting swallows their friends whole. The radio traffic turns from tactical commands to frantic mayday calls, but the physics of 1,000 tons of debris offer no negotiation. The rescue effort is grueling and dangerous, as the remaining structure is unstable, threatening to kill even more rescuers. It takes hours to recover the bodies, hours of digging through a tangled mess of steel and concrete that was once a roof. The Southwest Inn fire becomes the deadliest day in the history of the Houston Fire Department. But the fire itself was almost secondary. The men and women who died that day were not killed by flames. They were killed by gravity acting on a compromised structure. They were victims of a silent failure mode, lightweight construction that hides its weakness until the exact moment of total collapse. They walked into a building that was designed to be cheap and efficient, not knowing that those design choices would turn the roof into a monolithic hammer. It is a brutal reminder that in the modern world, the most dangerous thing on a fire ground isn't always the heat you feel on your face, but the silent, failing steel hanging directly over your head. Cincinnati, Ohio, March 26, 2015. It is a wet, bitter morning, the kind where the chill clings to the damp air and every breath feels heavy. Just after 5:30 a.m., an alarm wakes the crew of Heavy Rescue 14. A structure fire is reported at the Kings Tower Apartments, a high-rise building that looms over the College Hill neighborhood. Among the elite firefighters responding is Daryl Gordon, a 54-year-old veteran with nearly 3 decades of experience. He is a firefighter's firefighter, competent, calm, and deeply respected. He has walked into hundreds of burning buildings and walked out of all of them. But today, the building itself is plotting against him. The King's Tower is a concrete labyrinth, and the fire on the 2nd floor has turned the upper levels into a chimney. Smoke, thick and acrid, is pumping through the corridors, reducing visibility to absolute zero. In firefighter terms, this is blackout conditions. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You navigate by touch, by sound, and by a mental map of what a building should look like. Daryl Gordon is assigned to search the upper floors, checking for trapped residents. He takes the stairs, moving with the methodical purpose of a man who knows his job. He reaches the 4th floor. The air here is choked with hydrocarbons and particulate matter, a dense fog that swallows the beam of his flashlight completely. He is searching alone near the elevator bank, a standard procedure in a rapidly evolving incident. The elevator doors on this floor look normal. To a human mind, an elevator door is a promise. Behind it lies a car, a floor, a solid surface. But the fire below has done something subtle and deadly. The heat rising through the shaft has warped the locking mechanisms on the elevator doors on the floors above. Or perhaps in the confusion of the evacuation, the doors were forced open and failed to close properly due to debris. The specifics of the mechanical failure are complex, but the result is simple. The elevator car is not there. It is sitting in the lobby or stuck between floors. Behind the doors on the 4th floor, there is nothing but a vertical shaft of empty space, a dark throat dropping all the way to the basement. In the zero visibility smoke, Daryl Gordon cannot see that the doors are slightly ajar. The interlock system, the safety device that prevents doors from opening when the car isn't there, has failed or been bypassed by the force of the fire's heat on the metal tracks. Daryl Gordon takes a step. He expects concrete. He expects the solid resistance of a floor. Instead, his boot meets nothing. It is a moment of pure, terrifying cognitive dissonance. The solid world he has trusted for 30 years simply vanishes. He steps into the void. Gravity, the most relentless force in the universe, takes over instantly. There is no time to grab a ledge, no time to deploy a tool. He falls. He falls past the third floor, past the second floor where the fire is raging, past the lobby. He plummets down the dark concrete shaft, a free fall of nearly 30 feet. The physics of the fall are brutal. A 200-pound man in 60 pounds of gear accelerates at 32 feet per second squared. He hits the top of the elevator car, which is stalled in the basement, with devastating velocity. The impact is catastrophic. The deceleration trauma caused multiple fractures and massive internal injuries. But Daryl Gordon does not die instantly. He is alive, trapped in the darkness at the bottom of a concrete well, broken and alone, while his radio lies somewhere in the wreckage. Above him, the fire operation continues. The other firefighters are shouting on the radio, conducting roll calls, fighting the blaze. They don't know he is missing. They think he is just out of radio contact or working in a different sector. It takes nearly 15 minutes for the Mayday signal to truly register. When they finally realize he is gone, the search is frantic. They check the hallways, the stairs, the apartments. It is only when someone shines a light down the elevator shaft that they see the tragedy. The rescue operation to get him out is a nightmare of logistics. They have to rappel down the shaft, stabilize a critically injured man in a confined space, and haul him back up. Daryl Gordon is pulled from the darkness, but the damage is done. The fall was too severe. He is pronounced dead at the hospital, killed not by the fire, but by a mechanical betrayal in the dark. He died because a door opened when it shouldn't have, and because gravity doesn't care about experience or bravery. The King's Tower fire is remembered not for the flames, but for the empty space that swallowed a hero. It is a chilling reminder that in a burning building, the most dangerous thing isn't always the fire you can feel. It's the floor that isn't there. Washington, D.C., May 30th, 1999. It is the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, and the Capitol is sweltering under a blanket of early summer humidity, the kind of heavy, wet heat that makes the asphalt soft and the air feel like a physical weight. Just after 10:30 a.m., a call comes into the dispatch center for smoke issuing from a manhole in the upscale neighborhood of Georgetown. This is a common event in D.C., where the electrical grid is an aging labyrinth of subterranean vaults and decaying copper wires. Engine 10 responds, carrying firefighter Anthony Phillips, a 30-year-old professional with a reputation for steady nerves and dedication. He is a husband, a father of two, and a man who trusts the routine of his job. The crew arrives at 3141 M Street on W, a busy commercial corridor lined with shops and tourists. They find light smoke curling up from a grate on the sidewalk. To a civilian, this looks like a minor nuisance. To a firefighter, it signals an electrical fire in a transformer vault below the street. These vaults are concrete boxes buried underground, housing massive transformers that step down high-voltage electricity for residential use. Inside this specific vault, a transformer owned by the Potomac Electric Power Company, PEPCO, is failing catastrophically. The oil inside the unit, used for cooling and insulation, is boiling. The metal casing is glowing red-hot, turning the underground room into a blast furnace. The crew's instinct is to suppress the fire, to cool the situation down. They deploy a handline. In 99% of firefighting scenarios, water is the solution. It cools, it smothers, it saves. But in the world of thermodynamics, water is a shapeshifter. When liquid water comes into contact with a superheated surface in a confined space, it does not just get hot, it undergoes a violent phase transition. It turns into steam. This is not the gentle steam from a kettle. This is an explosive expansion. The physics are absolute. 1 cubic foot of liquid water expands instantly into 1,700 cubic feet of steam. It demands space. If it is in an open field, the steam dissipates harmlessly. But Anthony Phillips is not in an open field. He is standing over a confined space, a concrete box with a heavy lid. The vault is effectively a sealed pressure vessel, and the manhole cover is the only movable part. As the water from the hose, or perhaps water leaking from a melted pipe within the vault, hits the superheated transformer casing, the reaction is instantaneous. The water flashes to steam in a microsecond. The pressure inside the vault spikes from atmospheric to catastrophic levels, faster than the blink of an eye. The concrete walls do not move. The floor does not move. The pressure has only one way to go: up. The manhole cover is a solid disc of cast iron weighing approximately 100 pounds. It is designed to withstand the weight of a truck, but it is not designed to withstand an industrial steam explosion from below. The vault becomes a high-pressure launcher. The manhole cover is now the projectile. In a deafening boom that shakes the entire block, the iron disc is launched into the air. This is the iron frisbee effect, a grim nickname for a ballistic event. Anthony Phillips is standing near the opening. He does not see it coming. The heavy iron plate accelerates upward with terrifying velocity. It strikes him with the kinetic energy of a small car moving at highway speeds. The impact is not a glancing blow. It is a direct collision between a rigid, accelerating mass and the human frame. The trauma is clinically described as blunt force, but that term fails to capture the violence of the event. The cover knocks him backward, inflicting fatal injuries to his chest and head before he even hits the ground. The force is so great that it lifts him off his feet, defying gravity for a split second, before dropping him onto the pavement. The cover continues its trajectory, flipping through the air before crashing down, a ringing piece of metal that has done its deadly work. The silence that follows the explosion is heavy. Phillips lies on the street, his gear intact, but the physics of the impact have caused internal damage that no medicine can repair. He is rushed to the hospital, but the timeline of his survival ended the moment the water turned to steam. He dies from his injuries, leaving behind a family and a department in shock. The investigation would later focus on the procedures for fighting electrical fires in confined spaces, leading to changes in how firefighters approached smoking manholes. But the lesson remains written in the laws of thermodynamics. Water is a powerful tool, but when you trap it in a box and add heat, it becomes a powerful explosive force. Anthony Phillips was killed by a simple phase change, a natural reaction that turned a puddle of water into a force capable of launching iron at the sky. California, June 20th, 1995. The San Gabriel Mountains are on fire. It is wildfire season, a time when a single spark can turn thousands of acres of pristine wilderness into a blackened moonscape. The Shin fire is raging out of control near the city of Hemet, a serpent of flame and smoke slithering through the canyons. On the ground, firefighters are engaged in a desperate battle, cutting fire breaks, deploying hose lines, trying to save the ranches and homes that lie in the path of the inferno. Among them is Roger Stevens, a 43-year-old firefighter with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. He is a veteran of these wars, a man who understands the chaotic nature of wildland firefighting. He is standing near his engine, a heavy-duty truck designed to pump water and carry gear, a steel island of safety in a sea of fire. But the real power in this fight is not on the ground. It is in the sky. To combat a fire of this magnitude, you need air support. The primary weapon is the air tanker, a massive aircraft converted into a flying water cannon. On this day, the weapon is a C-130 Hercules, a 4-engine military transport plane retrofitted to carry 3,000 gallons of fire retardant, a thick slurry of water and chemicals colored bright red. This payload weighs approximately 25,000 pounds, or nearly 12 tons. The physics of an airdrop are a delicate balance of altitude, speed, and timing. The goal is to release the retardant from a specific height, usually between 150 and 200 feet, so that it breaks up into a fine mist, gently blanketing the fire below. If the drop is too high, the wind will scatter the retardant, rendering it useless. If the drop is too low, the payload does not have time to atomize. It remains a cohesive, liquid mass. The pilot of the C-130 is flying through a thick soup of smoke and turbulence, his visibility severely compromised. He is aiming for a ridgeline, a strategic point where a wall of red retardant can halt the fire's advance. Roger Stevens and his engine are positioned nearby, in what should be a safe zone. But in the chaos of the fire, communication breaks down. Or perhaps the pilot, blinded by the smoke, misjudges his altitude and position. He comes in too low, critically low. When he opens the bomb bay doors, the 12-ton payload of red liquid is not released from 200 feet. It is released from less than 100 feet. It does not have time to break up. It does not become a gentle rain. It holds its shape, a solid column of liquid 100 feet long, moving at over 100 miles per hour. It is no longer fire retardant. It is a liquid hammer. Roger Stevens looks up. He sees the shadow of the massive plane roaring overhead. He has just enough time to register that something is wrong. The roar of the engines is immediately followed by the sound of a tidal wave breaking in the sky. The 12-ton column of water and chemicals slams into the ground with the force of a landslide. It hits the fire engine, a 15-ton truck built of steel and iron. The liquid mass strikes the truck with such kinetic energy that it crushes the cab like a soda can. The steel frame buckles. The windows shatter. The truck is thrown sideways as if it were a child's toy. Roger Stevens is standing next to the engine. He is caught in the same devastating wave. The human body is mostly water, but it is not designed to withstand the impact of a 12-ton liquid projectile moving at aircraft speed. The force of the impact is absolute. He suffers massive, non-survivable blunt force trauma. The force of the water acted like a solid wall, delivering a pressure wave that caused fatal internal injuries. He is killed instantly, not by fire, not by smoke, but by the very tool that was meant to save him. The crimson slurry pools on the ground, covering the wreckage of the truck and the body of the man who stood beside it. When the other firefighters rush to the scene, they are met with a sight of surreal horror. The fire is still burning on the ridge, but in this one small patch of the battlefield, a different kind of war has been lost. An investigation would later confirm the pilot's error, a tragic miscalculation in the heat of battle. But the laws of physics offer no forgiveness for human error. Roger Stevens died because a liquid, when given enough mass and velocity, becomes as hard as concrete. It is a chilling testament that in the war against nature, the most dangerous force on the battlefield is sometimes your own. Evolution doesn't favor the brave. It favors those who know when to run. These victims stayed because they believed in a plan that was destined to fail. If you were in a smoke-filled room and your gut said leave, but your radio said stay, who would you listen to? Your instinct or a voice in an office? Don't lie to me. I'll see your real answer below. Sub and like for more reality.